Good evening, sports fans. Crobat for the win of the Token Minorities here today with the GBA Season 9. We've got our Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu Eevee Week 0 Power Rankings. I am here joined with my friend Aaron today because unfortunately our friend Ben is very sick and we must cure him, right? Cure him?
Yes, he is extremely sick and we must cure him.
Black or white?
I thought it was gray.
Well, he's going back to the unused item that's in Pokemon Black and White. Anyway, I should probably write you all an apology for our kind of lack of knowledge of Let's Go Pikachu Eevee metagame. We're pretty new to it, as you would expect. So if we say ignorant statements or anything stupid during this video, please pardon us. And we're just going to have a lot of fun with it. I'm pretty much ready to hop in. So,
yeah, I would say my only thing I want to mention is if I don't know every single 151 plus Meltan and Melmetal's movesets, can't crucify me for it. I didn't have time to study the entire Kanto decks, so don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah, so, alright, so before we actually jump into the power rankings, some of you guys don't actually know about the LGP metagame. So, a couple things. Psychic types dominate. Fast electric types dominate. Stealth rocks dominate. Rapid spinners do not exist. So when I end up saying in the middle of the video, oh, Blastoise is a great rapid spinner, it will be a mistake. So did I miss anything else?
Otherwise, really just a couple important types. Things like, for example, water types for anti-leads are really nice. Darks are obviously good for psychics, though they're very far and few between. Same as steels, but again, very far and few between. So those are obviously things that coaches did look into alongside their, of course, threatening bonds, like their very offensive psychic types and fast electrics. So just keep that in mind as we go through the teams. Obviously, that may or may not have affected rankings. And otherwise, I think that's it.
Yeah, alright. So I'm ready to hop into number 10.
Yes.
So, the number 10 for both of us, I'll let you do some talking as well, but it is the Pittsburgh Piratas, coached by Top. So he doesn't have any rockers that I can see. He has no electric immunities or no dark types. Basically everything I just said, he does not have. And unfortunately, Top doesn't really have the greatest track record with draft format games. So I'm kind of taking coach history that I know of, plus what I think the team composition looks like. That's how I'm getting my ratings. Putting all that together about Top, unfortunately, he falls at the bottom right now, 10. Of course, he could definitely change that with a really strong week 1. What do you have to say?
Well, looking at Top's team, of course, he does definitely lack any rockers or electric immunities. His team is fairly electric weak. He does obviously have Magneton as a resist, and also Parasect as a resist. But those aren't exactly threatening mons that you'd really look into and say, this can beat electric types. So electric types are, of course, going to give him a lot of problems. He has a couple really nice mons, like Slowbro and Gengar are both really amazing mons. However, I think that's really where anything good with the team ends, in my opinion. Of course, Tup can obviously bounce back week 1. Who knows? He might get a really good matchup or might just get a really nice play in. But I think as of right now, I definitely do gotta agree. He's bottom of the rankings right now.
Alrighty. So go talk about your pick 9.
So for my pick 9...
We do have a deviation, by the way. We
yes.
have a deviation.
My pick 9 and your pick 8, I have Kyle A., coach of the Miami Dolphins. So... something that I do really like about Kyle's team, of course, Mega Blastoise plus Arcanine and Nidoking, already 3 really strong picks, but I feel like then, as the draft goes on, Electrode, it's not a bad mon. Obviously, I get there was a really limited pool with 10 coaches and only 100-something Pokemon. You can only get so much out of it, so Electrode, maybe not a bad option. It's really fast. But then mons like Articuno and Scyther, his team is just asking to lose to rocks, in my opinion. Nidoking as a rocker, of course, it gets rocks, but it's not a great rocker. That's like saying that you want to have like a Geodude rocker. It's not a good rocker, even though it gets rocks. Also, his team is really slow outside of Electrode. I think it peaks at around 90 speed with Scyther. Yeah, I think Scyther is around 90 speed, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong in that, of course, but it's overall not a really fast team.
So my thoughts are pretty similar in that I don't think Nidoking is a great rocker at all. Yeah, it gets great coverage, but good luck trying to fit Stealth Rock, especially with its middling speed. It's still 85, which is pretty slow in this format.
Yeah.
Also, I like Mega Blastoise a lot, actually. I think has really good coverage in this format, but it doesn't get Rapid Spin. Ha! I didn't end up saying it.
Oh, I really thought you were going to say it.
I thought I was too. Maybe there'll be another time. But he has so many X4 weaknesses, and not having the ability to use Spin basically means half of this team, it seems, is going to have a lot of difficulty with rocks. I don't see any Dark types, and I don't think that Electrode really qualifies as a strong Electric type. It's okay, it's fast at least, but it's not going to be dealing any damage. Life Orb doesn't exist, Specs doesn't exist. I don't even think Volt Switch exists, if I'm correct.
I don't think it does.
No, it doesn't. I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's only U-turn.
So, unfortunately, not a huge fan of the team. I had it at number 8, so I will talk about my number 9 and your number 8, which is going to be the San Francisco Giants, coached by Gym Leader Geo. So, on his roster, he has a Ditto. And I find this to be a complete liability of a Mon. I don't think it, personally, should ever be brought. I would have rather seen him draft something, even a Stage 2 evolution, that would have probably been more useful. He does have an Alolan Golem. Something that came to mind was Graveler, but he has an Alolan Golem, so that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I'm sure he could have found something that would have been better than Ditto. It really just seems like he has 7 Mons, and it just doesn't work. I don't see that working here, and I don't know a whole lot about Gym Leader Geo's history as he is in draft format, so I can't really rate him on that. I just don't like that it seems like there is one Mon missing from his team. So that's why I put him down at number 9.
I have Geo at number 8 because, at the very least, he did do a good job about having one less Mon that is 4 times weak to rocks. Of course, while Zard X is only 2 times weak as it's Zard X, if he didn't get that in before rocks are up, he's already coming in at half health, which is definitely very disadvantageous because it doesn't get Dragon Dance in this meta, so that already also means that it can't even just play really aggressive. It needs to come in, it can't set up, and it needs to just hit hard, which it sadly lacks. Not only that, but I feel like that his team, it was almost drafted as if it was just RBY meta, because things like Tauros and Executor, they were really threatening RBY when there was a physical special mix and it was just based on typings. Because Tauros could, of course, run a really nice move pool. It was one of the best Mons then, but I feel like now that physical and special split, Tauros is a really lackluster Mon, Alolan Golem is a really lackluster Mon, and even then, he has on top of that only 7 real picks because Ditto is, of course, there without Imposter, so that already is putting him at such a disadvantage. I think that he does have a couple of really nice picks, like Vaporeon, Nidoqueen, and Zardex, all really phenomenal Mons. Even Executor is really good. But I think that's really where the team ends in terms of positives.
Alrighty, so I think we're ready to go to number 7, which we have the Pittsburgh Pichus, coached by the Numb Nexus. So, my thoughts on this team are the following. He has some pretty big speed issues on this team. There's no Scarf, there are no abilities to account for this flaw at all. However, I do like Clef. I think it has good coverage and good status moves. I like Mega Gyarados as a mega pick in this metagame because any Dark type is super valuable in dealing with the Psychic types that run rampant. So, why is Numb Nexus so low, even though I generally do like his draft? I'm a little less aware of how Nexus has been doing in draft format as late, but my last experiences with him involved him picking a round 1 Escavalier, so I sincerely hope he's improved since then. And if that's the case, then I would have no problem putting him higher, but just that's my last experience with him. If he proves me wrong week 1 and does really well, of course he's going to move up. That's what I got.
So, in terms of Numb Nexus' team, I think this is arguably where, from 7 to 1, there is a decent difference in terms of the viability of these Mons in the teams in general, in my opinion. I think Nexus' team is definitely a really good team. He could have honestly been anywhere between 4 and 7, in my opinion. But, of course, he does have Mega Gyarados, which is a very threatening Mon. In my opinion, it's one of the best Megas he could have gotten. Especially at a pick 2, I think that was a really good pick. I think that Clefable actually went really late. I'm really surprised because there are still some really threatening poisons like Alolan Mach, Mega Venusaur, for example. And there's like 1 or 2 steals, but there really aren't a lot of Mons that actually counter Clef, especially when you think about that they're all going to be split between 10 coaches. So I think that Clefable going round 3 was a really nice pickup for him. However, again, there's the issue with there's not a lot of rockers. It's really just Golem, if I'm not mistaken. He also has a very strong Psychic type in Jinx, which is, of course, really nice. However, it's more so just the fact that his team is really slow, whereas he could have really benefited from a really fast Psychic. Even like a Kadabra, I believe, is a little bit faster. I think the Haunter will actually be a really nice pick. I think that for round 8, that was one of the better round 8 picks in my opinion. So I do definitely think he has a lot of benefits, but at the same time, there are definitely some noticeable flaws, such as just the slowness overall of his draft, and the fact that there's no Dragon Dance, of course, is really unfortunate for Gyarados, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't think there is.
Yeah.
There definitely isn't for Dragonite, and so...
And it's definitely not there for
By
Zardex
transitive
either.
property, I say to myself, I don't think there is for Mega Gyarados either.
Yeah, if there is for Gyarados but not Zardex, that's an injustice right there.
Alrighty, let's get to number 6. We both have the Durham Druddigons, coached by 6-foot hacks, Leo. So I obviously know Leo quite well firsthand from the D-League, and he is a fantastic competitor. So he's got good battling wits and everything. I know it. However, let's talk about his team. I am not a huge fan of Mega Beedrill in this format. I know that, it's pretty fast, it can hit Psychic types pretty well. However, if it has to take a Psychic attack, or if it has to take any physical hit in general, it is probably O-code or at best 2-hit KO'd. So that's something to really watch out for. And also remember there's no adaptability. So Mega Beedrill's not hitting particularly hard, at least not compared to our expectations set in Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Moon rather. He also doesn't really have any rocks options, just Doug Trio. I know Doug Trio is definitely a pretty common rocker in the format, but it's really more of a suicide lead rocker, or just a suicide rocker, because if it just takes one attack most of the time, it's going down. There's no Focus Sash, there's nothing crazy to help it out, so it's kind of... If that's your only rocker, which I think it is, I'd be a little bit concerned. The rest of the team, it's good, it's okay, but I don't see anything that really stands out big time to me. So as a result, I have him at 6.
That makes sense. I think something Leo did really well was in drafting his fast Mons like Starmie, Dugtrio, Mega Beedrill. A lot of teams seem to really lack at least even Mons above 100 base speed for the most part. And obviously they're very far in between, but I think he got 3 that were fairly okay, especially Dugtrio. I mean, there's only so many good options left in round 4 in all honesty when there's 10 coaches and 100-something Mons. I will say one of my biggest issues with Leo's team is that his best wall is arguably Tangela, which is not something to be proud of by any means. Especially in a meta like Let's Go, you really do need a balanced team. So having Tangela and Alolan Sandslash as your defensive core is really lackluster. His team's gonna really rely on switching into like Starmie, for example, against any strong fire type. I think that he did do really well in drafting offense, and I think arguably Leo had the best round 8 pick in Alolan Eradicate. The fact that it does get Sucker Punch, I did confirm this before recording this, because I was really iffy on why he picked it. But the fact that it does get Sucker Punch will, of course, help with a lot of Psychic types that would threaten Mega Beedrill, and a lot of Ghost types that would threaten Starmie. So that, of course, in itself is actually really solid. I think it was a really nice round 8 pick. However, I think that besides the offense, Leo's team has a lot to work with, and a lot to work on, I should say. But I think that if he could just be really aggressive with this team, it'll be really nice.
So let's hop into number 5. So this is actually a pretty big deviation here. So I have MV and the San Diego Chim Chargers, whereas Aaron has Joey and the Bronx Bearticks. Mm-hmm. So let's go talk about that difference. So you have San Diego Chim Chargers at 3. I will talk about why I have them at 5. Okay. So to start, any team with a Alolan Muck is going to be a decent team. It's an awesome mon, even in the Let's Go Pikachu EV format. If I'm correct, its only rocker is Omastar, which I think could be taken advantage of pretty easily, because a lot of these rockers have Earthquake. There's probably a lot of grass coverage going around too, which is definitely problematic for it. There are no Focus Sashes, no abilities. He does have Mega Venusaur, but I think it's a little less good in a meta dominated by Psychic types, and because it doesn't have Thick Fat. However, on a positive note, he's a good mix of speeds. I don't know him as well as a coach, believe it or not. I haven't seen a whole lot of his content. Now, obviously, that's going to be changing very soon, but he seems to be pretty competitive from what I've seen, so I have no problem putting him at number 5, but I'm also kind of in a bit of an unknown.
I think for me, what put MV at number 3 was, for one, Alolan Muck. I'd argue it was the second best mon available, only second to Mega Aerodactyl. I think that MV did a fairly good job at drafting a really nice balanced team this format. I'd argue I'd argue he has a lot of what he needs besides a good rocker. He only has Omastar as a rocker, which is really not the best. He got by far the best Psychic Check in the entire game, being Alolan Muck. I don't know how that lasted to round 2. That should have arguably been a top 3 pick. I think that Mega Venusaur was also a really nice mon, especially the fact that Alolan Muck and Mega Venusaur do pair at least fairly well in Let's Go meta, I feel like. The fact there's really not that much ground types. Mega Venusaur could be a really solid lead to clear through any sort of hazard setters, and then Alolan Muck could just watt the actual Psychic types. So, definitely really nice synergy there, of course. I think that he had a couple of really out there picks. I'd say round 3 Dodrio was a little suspicious, not gonna lie. I think that he picked it up with Jolteon, of course. Ninetales and Machamp, I'm a little iffy on, especially from having used Machamp in the meta. I'm not sold on it that much. I'd argue that he didn't need Omastar with Lapras, and he probably should have prioritized the rocker over the Lapras spot and then gotten Lapras round 8. I don't see why it wouldn't have fallen to him. But overall, I think that he has a really nice team. He could have prioritized rocks a little more is, I think, my biggest issue with the team, to be honest.
Yeah. Quite frankly, I kind of would have liked even a round 8 Graveler.
Yeah.
Or maybe over Lapras and maybe not Omastar. Or even getting Omastar with Graveler, something, maybe getting 2 rockers. I know Graveler's not amazing, but it's for round 7 or round 8 mon with rocks and decent bulk. It can at least do something.
Yeah, I think honestly the only merit to having Omastar as his rocker is that it matches up well versus other rockers in the sense that it clicks Hydro Pump. But any rocker that's faster than it honestly just clicks Earthquake and most likely will OHKO if not 2 a KO. So that is definitely something to note for MB, of course.
Yeah, and of course Omastar's not exactly winning races anytime soon, so
it's going to
be in about the same speed territory as some of the other rockers, and many of them are faster. You're right.
My number 4, I have the Kansas City Jirachiefs, coached by TTM Jolt, of course. Now, something I really like about Jolt's team is, of course, the regular Aerodactyl pick, I should say. Mega Aerodactyl is a really phenomenal mon in this format. I think that regular Aerodactyl still is one of the best mons you can get. Speed tier is really nice. It's a rocker, of course. It's probably the best rocker besides Mega Aerodactyl, to be honest. Mega Kangaskhan, it's definitely not a bad mon, but I feel like the fact that it doesn't have Parental Bond definitely does hurt a little bit, though it still is a fairly versatile mon. I think that Jolt's offense has really done well, and unlike Leo's offense, he of course does have the defense to support it, which is really nice. And also the fact that he has 3 rockers on this team does really help, because even though Aerodactyl is arguably by far his best rocker, I think that the fact that he does have a couple others to fall back on, which most teams do lack a lot of good rockers, even just a second good rocker, to be honest. I think that's definitely something where Jolt's team will really shine with, especially because there's no mons that get removal in this game, especially not his Blastoise that he has. But I think that overall, Jolt's team isn't bad. It just... I don't know how I'd necessarily improve this specific team. I just think that there are better teams, to be honest.
I have Jolt's team at number 2. Maybe that's the TTM bias kicking in. Hashtag drama alert. There we go. But, obviously we love Blastoise, because it obviously has Rapid Spin, right?
Of course. That's why it's the best mon. Only Rapid
best
Spinner.
mon ever. That was definitely not a joke, guys. Okay, so, for real though. So, he has the second fastest rocker in the game, and I think that's awesome. He has a fast Psychic type, which is great. And I like that he has a good mix of bulk and offense, so you touched on that a little bit. Obviously, I know Jolt as a person and as a player. He's probably one of the best players in draft format that I know. I do like a surprise Wigglytuff in there. I think it could be pretty awesome as a niche fairy type. I like the Mega Kangaskhan pick, as you talked about. Unfortunately, it doesn't have Parental Bond, but really amazing coverage. I looked at its moves before this, and I feel like it could support the team really well. I like it overall. And he does have the Alolan Raichu, the fast electric type.
Yes, that is
overall, true. I think it's pretty solid, pretty well put together, considering we're in a Let's Go Pikachu Eevee metagame, so that's why I had him at number 2. For number 3, I had the Borussia Donphan. I probably pronounced that wrong. That's coached by Lars, and you did not have that. You had the San Diego Chargers.
Yep,
you had the Borussia Donphan at 2.
Exactly.
So I'll talk about
2.
Yep. So I'll talk about why I have them at 3. So first off, it has Rhydon. Like that. That's it. Done. We're done. No, but he has an amazing Dark type on his team. which is really helpful given that they're so scarce. Zapdos is awesome in this format. It's probably one of the better electric types because it gets U-turn. It is weak to rocks, which is unfortunate, but the U-turn I just think is super valuable. We know he's a very solid player in general. I don't know if it'll carry over to this format, of course, but going into week 0, I don't have much to go off of, so I see a pretty well put together team. I know his history. I feel like he'll do pretty well.
In terms of Lars' team, it was really hard looking at Lars' team, whether to put him at number 1 or all the way at like number 7 or so, because there are definitely a lot of factors that I both love and hate about Lars' team. For example, you touched on Zapdos. I think it's obviously one of the best Mons that you could possibly get. It's normally a really good Mon, even in Ultra Sun and Moon. Obviously, that is carried over to the Let's Go meta, of course. It kept most of its moves it needs. Sadly, nothing like Heat Wave, but then again, there's really only 2 steals, I think, that were draftable, so it really doesn't make that much of a difference. And of course, he does have ways around steals anyway, like Rhydon, which I think synergizes really well with Zapdos. I think he did a fairly good job building around Zapdos, at least in his first 4 picks. Alolan Persian, I don't know how that lasted when there's only like 3 dark types that were viable, and then Alolan Eradicate, but I think that was an amazing pickup round 4. I commend Lars for getting it. However, the rounds 5 through 8 picks, I think, leave a little bit to be desired. Not even because they're bad Mons, but I think it only adds on to the rock weakness. For example, Pinsir and Zard Y, even though Pinsir Quartz does give Lars another rocker than Rhydon, it doesn't exactly offer anything outside of that, I feel. And Zard Y, of course, adding more rock weakness. He definitely, I feel like, besides Kyle, has the biggest rock weak team. However, I do think that he has the offense and the defense, just at least not let that be too big of an issue. I think it honestly just depends. I feel like Lars very well next week could be all the way at, like, the bottom half for all I know. But he could also be number 1, who knows? I think that it just depends on how he plays with the team, to be honest.
Yeah. Do remember as well, Alolan Persian's very fast, and it gets taunt, so hopefully that can get him to not have rocks up on his side of the field. And also remember, a mixed Mega Charizard Y is definitely in the cards.
That is true.
I've seen it in draft format before. I'm sure it could come here. It has good offenses on both sides, so despite the Stealth Rock weakness, it is still substantially better than regular Charizard.
Oh, that is at least for certain, I'll give you that.
Alrighty, so now I think I'm good to get to, actually, it's my number 4 and your number 1.
Yes.
So I've got the Florida Gators, coached by It's Gator. So I think he has a really good mix of speed on this team. So he's some slow Mons, he's got some fast Mons. I like that he has multiple psychic types. I think Mega Slowbro is a really awesome pick due to its immense bulk and pretty good coverage. I'd love to see some kind of rest set like the old days with Amnesia or Withdraw or something crazy. I just love to see that. I don't think that'll actually come, but it'd be really cool. So there's nothing like exceptionally high in speed, but I think he has enough to get that job done. I think that's pretty much all I had to say about it. It's number 4, so it's in the middle of the pack, but definitely a strong squad.
See, I had Gator at number 1. I feel like that Gator has 2 really threatening Mons from a back-end wheel pick at that, being Dragonite and Snorlax. Obviously, in 10-Mon draft, you'd think that all the really big threats would go, but somehow he got 2 of the bigger threats, being Dragonite and Snorlax. Alolan Dugtrio, not overly a big fan of, but obviously it's a somewhat fast rocker, I'll give it that. There's definitely merit to it, of course. Also handles fairies, which Dragonite would struggle with. The Gyarados is a nice pickup, of course. I'm a big fan of Gyarados. I know a few other people who I've seen play the Let's Go meta say Gyarados is really good. So I've only played in like 1 league with it, so I don't have the most experience. But Weezing, again, I'm not really too sure on Weezing. Kadabra, I think that Kadabra actually will be really underrated in this metagame, because of course, since Alakazam is banned, this is, I believe, the fastest Psychic type, besides Alolan and Raichu, if I'm not mistaken. And it does have, of course, more special attack than Alolan and Raichu, being 120 base, which is really amazing. And not only that, but it does get set up on top of that. So, of course, even though it's a somewhat frail Mon, especially with Calm Mind at +1, that's still going to take a fair amount of hits, especially for a Mon in round 6. So I think that was, of course, a nice pickup. And on top of that, he has a really fast Psychic and Mega Slowbro too, which will, of course, be really nice for his team as well. He can not only take hits, but he can do a lot of damage back as well, which is something that I think is amazing about Gator's team. With also some nice diversity in rockers being Alolan Dugtrio and Kabutops, I think the Gators got a really solid team, and I'd be shocked if he didn't make it far this season.
I also can't believe I forgot to mention this one other thing. The one other reason why I put him a little bit lower is I think he, as much as I like the Mega Slowbro and I like I think he has a pretty big electric type weakness going on here. Not a whole lot of resists. So he's got Gyarados weak. He's got Mega Slowbro weak. Remember, it can be crit now. So definitely possible. He's got the Kabutops weak. Dragonite doesn't have multi-scale, so it'll be hit neutrally. It's his only resist. I think his only resist at all is the Alolan Dugtrio, which will be destroyed by any other attack. So,
yeah.
I guess in fairness, most electric types have terrible coverage, but what if we saw Double Kick Jolteon?
Ooh. I was going to say, really, I think his best switch into Electrics would arguably be the Snorlax. It's a very nice Spinef Mon. I think that could easily take hits and just Earthquake back any Electric. So I don't see Electrics being that big of a problem as long as he can preserve the Snorlax and the Dugtrio.
I mean, and I see that. I see what you mean. But I feel like he puts way too much pressure on like one or two Mons to stop that. And given there are a lot of Electric types sprinkled through these teams, that might be easier said than done.
We're now going to get into your number 1 and my number 5, Joey Pokien, coach of the Bronx Bearticks. What I like most about Joey's team is the Mega Aerodactyl. Already, in my opinion, Mega Aerodactyl, you cannot possibly make a Mega Aerodactyl draft bad. It is an absurd mon to play against. In prep, it forces so much defensive prep that you almost know going in what mons actually are able to come to a game and what mons have to sit on the bench. Not only that, but I feel like he definitely drafted some okay rockers, or an okay rocker, I should say, in Sandslash. It's not the best rocker, doesn't get Rapid Spin, sadly, so there's not a ton of merit to it. But for round 5, there's only so many options. He did, however, make a lot of really nice plays in grabbing mons like Polygrath and Venusaur rounds 2 and 3. I think that those are going to be really underrated this format, especially with Polygrath finally getting a fighting move, if I'm not mistaken, so that'll be really nice. Overall, I think that he has a really nice team, to be honest. I think that there are definitely some things that could have been better, such as, for example, maybe getting a better rocker than Sandslash, something that at least had some speed to it. But, I mean, then again, it is, like, as I've mentioned several times, there's 10 coaches, only 100-something mons. A lot of those are NFEs or Little Cup mons, so there's only so many really viable mons you can get. But I'd say Joey definitely has a really threatening team, and just like with Lars and Gator, he could very well end up being at the top next week, or very well end up being near the bottom. Who just depends on how he plays week 1.
And I can totally respect that, but in my opinion, he can't be lower than 4 if he has a Mega Aerodactyl on his team. The fastest Stealth Rocker, the fastest Taunt user in the format. Unless we can hack Deoxys speed into the game.
That is
true. If we
true.
could do that, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
So, I think it just turns into an egg or something.
I've seen some crazy videos like that. Anyway, so he's also got some fast U-turn with Persian, which I think is a very undervalued late pick just because of that U-turn support. It also does get some decent mixed coverage. It's not very powerful on either the physical or special side, but if you can hit something X4 effective, it won't matter. Or if you're just U-turning out to go into something else, it won't really matter. So I think that was a fantastic late round pickup. He's got, like I said, just good support for the rockers that he does have in the team. Sandslash and the Mega Aerodactyl. I think there's a really good balance there. We know Pokeaim's a really good player. I think all that added together, especially having Mega Aerodactyl, and I like Polyrath, of course, too. It's fantastic in this format as well, which is surprising to say. I couldn't believe when I was seeing how well Polyrath was doing on some of the matches I was watching in other leagues, but it is. Yeah. So, all in all, considering he's a really strong player with a Mega Aerodactyl and pretty good team synergy. Also, I like the Electabuzz. Great coverage for an electric type. I think it's a great mid-round pick. So, with all that put together, that, for me, right now is number 1. Of course, it could change, but I think it's a good starting point for him.
I was going to say, on your note about Polyrath, I don't think if you told me 6 months ago Polyrath would be a defining mon in the upcoming metagame that I would have believed you, even if you paid me to believe you. So to say now that it's one of the arguably better picks that could have been drafted astounds me. I still am blown away by that. But it's actually not that bad.
Alrighty, so we've pretty much gone through our list. I think we are good to go today. Again, any final concluding thoughts?
So I guess my only thoughts that I really have to say are, I feel like that a couple of these teams could definitely really use a dip into the free agent pool this season. There are still some really nice mons I feel like that were undervalued. You mentioned Graveler, of course. I think that could be a rocker for Tup, of course, as he doesn't have any. I think that a lot of these teams might really might really want to look at rockers this season, because a lot of them barely have one good rocker, or even half of a good rocker, because their rockers are just so awful. Especially in a metagame that really demands having a good one, or at least a few in terms of draft. I think that there are some teams that already right off the bat will go into week 1 and they will stay on top. And there are other teams that even if they got transactions, I think it'll be too late for them to climb back up, in all honesty. But I think that obviously it is a new metagame. There is plenty of room for new surprises in store for both of us, and also Ben when he gets cured of his sickness. But do you have anything left to say? We will cure him. We will cure him.
How many times can we say that in one video? Okay, so my final thoughts are this. So to the coaches that might be listening to this, of course, I think if you stick to the basics in your team structure, those things that we talked about, try to have a psychic type, try to have a rocker, try to have a fast electric type, those are all, I think, attainable. Dark type, obviously not attainable. It's ideal, but not attainable. Steel type, cool to have, but really definitely not attainable for most teams. But if you can stick to those 3 things and try to have maybe at least a couple for each role, at least the stealth rocker anyway, I think that's what would get you far in this format. And I don't think some coaches did that as effectively as others, and I think that's what, in my mind, separated a lot of them, other than what I know about them as coaches beforehand. I'm going to learn more as we go through, of course. I'm going to watch all these games while I'm on the treadmill or something at the gym, so it'll be a fun time. I've said my piece. I think you've said yours. So this has been week 0 of the Power Rankings. We will see you guys next week when Ben will be here, I presume, for week 1 of the Power Rankings. Deuces. Take care.